Reddit, what is the biggest lie you have ever told and how long did you keep it going? I told people at my Catholic high school that I was Jewish. This went on for a little longer than it should have. I ended up having people dropping change on the floor to test if I'd look or pick it up. Someone bought me a Star of David pendant and I wore it all of the time. I used to work at Walmart, and they wouldn't let me take a week off to go on tour with my band, even though I had enough PTO days, so I told them my grandma died. And took my legally obligated bereavement time. Boss told me the timing was convenient and I said, how dare you accuse of lying about my grandmother's death. She was us and I could tell I really made him feel bad. He apologized several times before I left, and even gave me a raise not long after I returned, which I deserved anyway, but still. I haven't worked there in many years, grandma's still fine. I don't even feel bad. Pretended I was attending graduated university for 3 years. All sorts of problems. It stemmed from mental health issues. Still have continuing problems with compulsive lying in stressful situations, which snowball and cause enduring problems. Not me but a girl I know. For some background, she's a super spoiled little rich girl, the granddaughter of one of the James Bonds who shall not be named. This girl dropped out of university because all she did all day was sit around and smoke weed, and then complain about how fat she was. So she made up an eating disorder as an excuse to leave and got put into a treatment facility. But that's not even the lie. Last year, she was living with her boyfriend and smoking weed all day, and one day our mutual friend calls me to tell me what just happened to her. We'll call her Sarah. So Sarah was walking home one day with her boyfriend, and when they got home he left to go run some errands, so she took a nap. While she was sleeping, 2 huge guys broke into her apartment and took photos of her sleeping, naked, stole her passports, and a shit ton of money, woke her up and harassed her, etc., he said. Since she was renting an Airbnb, they had been looking for the owner who owed them $10,000. So she still continues to talk about it, saying she has PTSD from it now, is so terrified every day that the photos will come out, etc. My friend found out a few months ago that the whole thing was a lie. Turns out Sarah had been smoking so much weed that the neighbors called the police on her, and she got arrested. Sarah has no idea that my friend knows what really happened, so continues to lie about it. Side note, I was friends with her for a few months before I realized how much she sucked and how awful she was, and when I start thinking about maybe being too harsh on her, I remember the story and she can go duck herself. Ever since 7th grade, all of my closest friends have believed that I'm colorblind. None of them know to this day, which is surprising, since my story detailing why I was suddenly became colorblind was pretty much Daredevil's origin story. Why did you tell them you were colorblind? Kids make up stupid shit all the time. When I was 17, I dated a 26-year-old. For our entire relationship, about a year and a half, we convinced his parents I was 19, and convinced my parents he was 20. It wasn't too hard to keep it up, especially because none of our parents had Facebooks. But there was a little dodging involved. For example, when I turned 18, his mom baked me a cake and I had to tell her I hated birthday candles. I friggin' loved birthday candles. That I loved my ex. Kept it up for 2 years, because I was convinced he would kill himself if I broke up with him. He was awful to me and everyone around him. But it seemed relatively clear to me that my alleged affection for him was one of the only thing that gave him a feeling of self-worth. I've been in a similar situation, and for everyone out there who is still stuck, break up, don't look back. If he/she does commit suicide, it's not your fault, no matter what their family or friends say. Your own life is too valuable to be wasting time on some pathetic grasshole. One night, I was slightly drunk in a noisy place with my friends, and I was telling how alcohol and fried foods abuse gave me slight heart issues and I had to cut back on the stuff. And the coolest of my friends misheard what I said and thought I had a heart attack at 24, and he was amazed like it was the most radical and awesome thing ever. Since then, I kept the myth alive and everyone around me thinks I had a heart attack at 24 from too much booze, burgers and fries. It was just moderate tachycardia that quickly went away when I stopped getting drunk twice a day and eating my weight in mayonnaise at every meal, but the legend lives on. I got married 4 years ago. There's this guy at work who's one of those people. The type that keep asking you when you are planning on having a baby once you're married. Since we didn't really have much in common, and he heard I got married, that's the only thing he could come up with to start a conversation. It was just water cooler banter. I kept telling him, when the time is right, but he still kept asking me every time I ran into him. So, any kids on the way? Hey, expecting anytime soon? Any plans on having a baby? I got sick of it. One day I just told him, yes, she's pregnant, we're having a boy. I figured it would shut him up. I was so wrong. Jacob is 2 years old now. He started teething. He's said his first word. He keeps us up at night and he doesn't effing exist. I've told my wife about this and she thinks I'm an idiot. At this point, there's no looking back. I failed my MSc, Master of Science. I really shouldn't have done that particular subject and ended up getting a postgraduate diploma. I lied and got a job saying I have the master's degree. After we changed which group we belonged to at work, my new manager brought me into his office and asked me if I have a master's degree. I assumed I was going to be fired. After he said that I was on the wrong pay grade, and then proceeded to tell HR to give me more money. I got a 17% pay rise. For the months between him speaking to me and getting my pay rise, my heart sank every time he looked mad at his computer, which he regularly does. I felt bad because he was a really good manager. My parents wanted me to be in an activity in high school. I pretended to be in choir from 9th grade to 12th grade. I even had a choir robe given to me that I would dress up in and actually leave the house whenever there was a choir performance, just finding someplace to hide. Usually in an alleyway near my school. One day, my mom came to see the choir perform. After the show, she said she didn't see me up there singing, but I swore I was up there. She probably just didn't look hard enough. I also told her my name wasn't in the program because of a misprint. I still can't believe she bought that. I did end up getting busted though, just before I graduated during a parent-teacher conference. My parents were not happy. They were so angry that they said they wouldn't even punish me, as this behavior went beyond punishment, and I'd just have to live my life knowing how much I let them down. It worked, because, obviously I've never forgotten it. When I met my girlfriend I told her I smoked, because I thought it'd make me look cooler. Yes, I know it's a effing dumb thing to say and that I would stop if she didn't like it. 3.5 years later and she still thinks I quit for her. I feel like such poo whenever the topic comes up and she tells me how proud she is of me, but it's gone on for so long I just gotta smile and say, it was nothing. It actually was nothing, lol. I worked at a Harry Potter exhibit for 4 months, all the props and costumes from the movies. It was an intense interview audition process, and the entire thing was conducted in a British accent. To preserve authenticity, we all had to be in accent all the time. I warmed up my accent at a coffee shop every morning, and one morning the barista got really excited and said, "Where are you from?" "London." "I have family in London." We got to talking and when I had to leave she said we should hang out. I thought she was cool so we exchanged numbers and then the panic set in. If she called me, she'd hear my American accent on my voicemail and think I was a freak. So I called her. I got her voicemail. "Hey oh geez, I'm not actually British. This is my job blah blah blah." So basically the lie lasted 0 minutes. I did not hear back from her. I was walking down the street a few weeks later and someone waved at me from a street away. Turned out it was her. She said she'd gotten my message but her phone had been stolen. She asked me to hang out, read my tarot cards, and I never saw her again. I expect her face to be the last thing I see before I die. In college, I skipped an English class for essentially the full semester. I was stoned for most of college and made bad decisions like this unfortunately often. While I was skipping, the original instructor had a heart attack and was replaced. Right before finals, I went to the replacement and explained that the reason why I was absent for pretty much the entire semester was because I had mono. She took pity on me and allowed me to write a couple papers to make up for my extended absence and I passed with a C-. A friend of mine has a running like going with the hairdressers. The first time he went in there they thought he sounded American and asked if he was from there. His brain must have massively trolled him at that point as he replied, yes. Now every time he gets his hair cut he has to talk about how much he misses America and how different England is, while pulling off a terrible accent. It's been like 4 years, he's in too deep. And at the end of each haircut, he is obliged to start clapping loudly, whilst hollering good jab. Good jab. Hamburger music plays. Everything I tell my hairdresser is a lie. It started 1 year with her asking if I was seeing my mum on Mother's Day. We haven't spoken in years, as we have a very toxic dysfunctional family, and I don't want to share the details with strangers, so I said no, she lives abroad. The next appointment I told her she lives in Cyprus, we visit often, there's a pool. 4 years later I have a whole different life. It's hard keeping track of it. I'm tempted to find another hairdresser, but she's the only one who doesn't leave grassy roots. That sounds stressful. For years, the women who did my pedicures called me Hannah, not my name. The first time she did it, I failed to correct her, so I just went with it. It went on for years, until someone called me by my actual name. I responded, and she realized her mistake. She asked me why I never corrected her, and honestly, I had no answer for her.